to today's episode of Print to Pixel, the podcast where we talk to marketing leaders and technologists about how omnichannel marketing is revolutionizing the way that direct mail and digital marketing are used together. My name is Dennis Kelly. I'm the CEO of Postalytics, the leading direct mail automation platform that makes direct mail as easy as email. I'm excited today to introduce Ruby Hibben. Ruby is the Director of Marketing Services at Vantage Point Solutions. Vantage Point is a premier engineering and consulting firm serving the broadband, energy, enterprise, and banking industries. These companies, cooperatives, and communities leverage Vantage Point's extensive technical and regulatory expertise to protect their operation, connect end-to-end users, empower their staff to excel, and rise beyond the countless challenges defining the modern business environment. Ruby leads the marketing services team in this integrated firm. Ruby, welcome to Print to Pixel.
Good morning, Dennis. Great to be here. Thank you.
Super excited to have you. And, Vantage Point is such a unique organization. I'm really interested in diving in and learning more. But before we go there, congratulations on all the success and growth at Vantage Point. I know that your team has grown significantly in the last year. You've got a really interesting background with varied roles across a number of different organizations. So let's talk about some of the key things that have influenced you, Ruby, in your career that have led you to this role at Vantage Point.
Yeah, thank you. So awesome introduction. I can't wait to dive in. I started in marketing agency world. I had like 5 different internships in college, testing the waters. I always think of internships as trying on different shoes, see which ones fit your feet and the ones you want to walk in. So I had an awesome agency internship in college. I actually moved back up to my hometown and grew up in agency world for about a decade, which means I got to work across lots of different industries with lots of different types of clients. Clients that had zero marketing team at all. I was the contact directly with C-suite or GM and saying, hey, here's how we get this going here. But then other end of the spectrum, working with really established teams that had specific roles. And suffice to say, I've done about every single marketing project you could possibly think of, from research to how do we get this campaign going to we need a new look and feel. How do we talk about ourselves? So everything from what's your brand strategy to how do we get this going? How do we acquire? What's our growth strategy? How do we get our process going? So grew up in marketing agency world. Of course, all my clients were in-house. After marketing agency world, I did a short blip as a in-house marketer at a financial institution here locally. I'm in Cedar Falls, Iowa. And that's an important part of my origin story because I'll tell you a quick story about it. And people who are listening that are in-house marketers that have worked with agencies, I think will really appreciate this. When you're in the agency world, it's like, well, what do you mean you haven't had time to look at that? What do you mean you didn't get that invoice email? How could it possibly, why? Why is it taking so long? And after I flipped into my short stint at a bank here locally as their marketing manager, it took me about 3-5 days to really understand, the volume of emails, the number of things that internal marketers are really responsible for. As you see your inbox grow and grow and grow, and the needs that are happening, my agency brain all of a sudden went, oh, that's why.
That's the reality.
That's the reality. Here's what people are really doing outside of the cool little creative marketing agency bubble. So really important part of how I've developed. And then I've known Vantage Point for a really long time. They were a client before I was brought on to build a team for Vantage Point. So newer to the industry, but certainly not new to the Vantage Point and the clients that we serve now. So as I've flipped over now to yes, in-house, but building agency team to serve Vantage Point's clients. I've really taken that realization to heart, and I've built a team and so blessed with such talented, way smarter than me team members that come from both agency background, but it was really important to me to build a team for Vantage Point that had in-house experience, because flipping that switch and understanding both sides is a really unique thing. So that's where I came from, and why we're building the team that we're building. Because being an in-house marketer is, oh my gosh, that was the hardest job I've ever had. It really was, because of the sheer volume and the level of responsibility. So it was really important as I build this team for Vantage Point to serve clients that understand both sides, because that's how we're going to be the best partner.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. And all of us who are in-house marketers, myself included, understand exactly what you're talking about. The volume is overwhelming, and so you really need great service providers to augment, what you're doing day to day. It's almost impossible to survive otherwise. So let's talk about the marketing services team at Vantage Point. I know you've started it out, right? And not too long ago, and it's been growing substantially. So tell us about the mission of the marketing services team, and why has it grown so quickly? And then third, like, what are you focused on as a director of marketing services?
Yeah. So the first month or two, I'm constantly taking inventory, right? And noticing where people need the most help. As we know, in the broadband industry, internal marketing teams can look a lot of different ways. So first things first, I tried to identify and started to listen and take some inventory on what are teams made of? Where are they right now? And I think all those who are out there listening, you're going to relate to this. There's a spectrum of people, of organizations, co-ops, companies. I hope you give me some grace on what type of company title or member, subscriber, end user. We'll use all of those kind of interchangeably, knowing that in co-op world, it's a little bit different than if you're non-co-op and things like that. But what I was noticing was many organizations, they're just now getting to the thought of, maybe we should spend some marketing dollars. We've spent millions of dollars putting fiber in the ground. Maybe a percentage of that needs to be on telling our brand story and reaching out. So if we're right here on the spectrum, there are lots of companies that maybe have a frontline person who also is able to post on their social media and keep the lights on their website. Great starting point. But really, as you see the bigger world of marketing, they're noticing really quickly, like, oh, we have to get better. We have to do more. How do we do that? So one end of the spectrum is you maybe have one person who it's half their job. It's one of the hats, the many hats that they wear as an internal marketer. And then we've got other end of the spectrum of maybe larger companies that have at least one dedicated person, if not two or three. So you asked what the mission was for our organization. After I started to take some inventory, I started to build a team that can flex and meet clients exactly where they need to be met. There are companies, of course, that have one unicorn person that somehow gets so much more done than I ever thought would be possible as an individual. But then there's teams where they're like, we're really good at this thing over here, but we don't know how to get to these goals. Please help us line this out. So really our mission as a marketing agency, as an extension of Vantage Point, is meeting clients where they need to be met. Establishing, hey, where are you? Where do you want to go? What tech stack do you have? What process do you have in place? Are you working from a plan, or is everything on fire? Okay, cool. That's where you are. Let's build. What does success look like for you? So that's really our mission, and that looks a little bit different for every single client. So it doesn't make our job too easy, right? There's not a whole lot of rehearsed dance happening for us right now, and that's okay. That's what agency partners are supposed to feel like. And that's always been Vantage Point's prerogative of we need to do what's best for clients. And sometimes that looks one way, and sometimes that looks a different way.
Right. I think that makes perfect sense. And, given the kind of range of clients that you're serving, it seems like having, to use a baseball analogy, the 5-tool players that can hit and run and bunt and throw, right? Like being able to really serve all those different roles makes perfect sense. So, you touched a little bit upon broadband and telecom, and it's an area of tremendous growth for Postalytics. And so we're really interested in learning more and talking with other folks in the field. And I know Vantage Point has a significant investment in the category itself. And so let's talk about who are those ideal customers for Vantage Point, and what are the primary pain points that Vantage Point is focused on solving for those broadband ideal customers?
So I want to do just a coverall caveat statement that the ideal customer for Vantage Point, oh my gosh, I wish I had a crystal ball. I think it's different depending on which department you're talking to, because we have so many different really, really unique, cool, way smarter than me experts throughout all of Vantage Point. So I can speak to the perfect prospect for the Vantage Point marketing services team. It's not necessarily a number. It's not, I can't categorize the perfect prospect on how far along they are. What really is an indicator of a great client and someone who will work well with recommendations, they have to be ready. They have to recognize the need for being great communicators. They've either been given feedback through their surveys, or maybe they don't really know, but maybe marketing is like, you probably should be thinking about that. Our perfect clients, and of course, all of our clients are perfect, right? But our perfect clients are ready and open and willing, but really solid in who they are. They can give great feedback. And some of them maybe not so solid in who their company is, but also something that we uncover and help establish. So we serve big teams, we serve small teams, we serve people whose half their job happens to be keeping the lights on, but also they have to prepare a financial statement. Oddly enough, sometimes those are the different hats that people wear. So I think coming in and understanding both from people with agency perspective and in-house perspective, we certainly have an awe, a respect for all of the different things happening. And I think that's an important point, because the agency where I grew up, they so creative, right? But the best agencies recognize how nimble their internal partners, their clients need to be, so they can flex with those needs. Hey, we need to move on this one real quick because the board is really needing it for X, Y, and Z. So recognizing that need and being able to respond to it is part of how we're building this Vantage Point team.
Great. So you touched on a little bit about the expertise that Vantage Point has in so many different functional areas. And I think it's really interesting. And I think it's really unique. And so for a broadband service provider, Vantage Point can bring in expertise and services across so many different areas of the operation, from feasibility studies to engineering and project management, regulatory compliance, marketing services, obviously. How do you and the marketing services team work together with all these experts in these functional areas to assist your clients?
No, thank you. That's a great question. It's certainly an advantage that I feel so blessed to be able to be a part of. Honestly, as a lifelong marketer, like I was born to be a marketer. But marketers are only as good as the team surrounding them. and the tools that they have at their disposal. So you're right that as an agency tied to 12 PEs and a data networking and cybersecurity group that, oh my gosh, if they start getting in the weeds, you're going to feel pretty lost pretty quick. From all of our financial minds and our regulatory and compliance, Vantage Point has paleontologists and archaeologists in our environmental and right-of-way group. And I know that there's groups that I'm not even mentioning that we all have access to. So being able to have access to teams with that type of expertise allows us to be such powerful messengers and communicators and marketers and educators. I think that's a really cool element that we bring to the people that we partner with. And I'll give you a couple examples. So I was working with a client, and somewhere along the line, their internal IT or someone had said, we can't use QR codes anymore. They're not secure. They're too easy to mess with. We're not going to do it. And so I was like, well, hold on just one second. There happens to be an individual, his name is James Taylor, on our data networking and cybersecurity group. He's a senior security analyst. He advises clients across the board on how to build their network securely. And when inevitably something happens, so let's figure out how to build back and recover and make sure that you're good to go. So I reached out to James and I said, James, my client has this problem. They think that they can't use QR codes. Us as marketers, we really like them, right? People are used to using them. It's a pretty approachable method right now. It's funny how QR codes started off like super cool, and then they were like the worst thing ever, and all of a sudden they're commonplace, which is a story for another day. But I said, James, is there a secure platform that our client can use? We want to be able to track it this way. We want it to do X, Y, and Z. He came back with 3 different options and said, hey, yeah, this one, or this one. I use this all the time. I've got zero security concerns. And that night I went home and I was like, oh my gosh, where the garage door would normally close for us marketers, it stays wide open. And so the security item is just one example of how we can be better partners to our internal marketers. Another example would be, say you've got this marketing thing you want to do, and you want to message it a specific way, or this is the angle that you want to take on the campaign. Well, we know as internal marketers, we have to take that out and get the blessing from whoever it needs to come from, right? Well, those people are technically minded, right? And they want to pick apart what we're actually saying. Mm-hmm. And, well, it doesn't really work that way. Okay, well, average Joe, average Susan off the street don't really care. But
let's talk gigabytes.
right. But hey, Mr. or Mr. Client, let me connect Ralph on your team with James from my team so that they can connect on how this is actually working. And so being able to bridge that gap of knowledge has been a huge benefit to the clients for us as an agency team. Not only that, it's a connection to a different expert, right? Our clients end up feeling very, very supported and backed up because not only are they getting the stuff that they need as communicators, but they're also learning along the way. And when communicators are learning, that means your end users are learning as well.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. And, I think it is such a technical product, broadband. It only works by having incredible investments in technology and very technical people involved at all layers of it. And to have access to people who truly understand that technology and everything that is surrounding it and to assist in the construction of communication I think is just a huge advantage. And so I can see why you guys are growing so quickly over there.
Yes. Look wildfire. It's really exciting. I want to start my own segment, Dennis. I need some podcast tips, and I want to call it. I'm sure this is trademarked, but I want to set it up so that marketers have a space to ask their questions of experts in the field, and then we say, okay, how does this work? And then us as marketers, we're like, what? No way. Come on. That is not how that works. So if I said it this way, is that true? If I said it this way, is that true? And then Brian Enga, who I'll pick on, this PE brilliant mind from the Vantage Point team, he'll be like, not exactly, but I guess you could get away with that. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm looking for right there.
Right. Yeah.
I'm tired of my life. I'm going to create space for that.
You need to tell the truth, but you need to say it in a way that it makes maybe the PE a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah, I like it.
They hate to see me coming. Our regulatory people, all of our PEs are like, oh man, she's going to ask me a bunch of questions on all of this stuff. So I take the responsibility. I view me coming from outside the industry, the telecom industry. I know the general gist of putting fiber in the ground, right? More than average Joe and average Susan. But I take that responsibility of not knowing very seriously because it's an advantage. We get to come from a place of ignorance, yes, but also a place from where average Joe and average Susan are coming from. So we can be better communicators, better marketers, so that we can motivate some action.
Yeah. No, that's very cool. Okay, so last question. From an omnichannel marketing perspective, how do you and the Vantage Point team think about the role of direct mail and omnichannel marketing, the broadband audience, the broadband market, and how can automation assist in that process?
Yes. So we love seeing direct mail as a part of your integrated mix. And I'll tell you a quick story to illustrate why. So when I graduated from University of Northern Iowa, go Panthers, in 2011, every single textbook that you would see and every single class would say, okay, marketers, when you think about every single thing a person needs to hear, it's 8 to 10 times. People need to hear and see things 8 to 10 times, before they realize they're actually hearing it, before they're actually seeing it, much less being motivated to take action. 8 to 10 times. That's like passing one billboard on the side of the road, like, oh, okay, cool. I actually understand that. Since then, we all have our little reality machines in our pockets, and we're checking these. I think we pick these up 50 or 80 times a day. I'm sure the stats change on that all the time, and it's ever increasing. So rather than just one billboard on the side of the road, our world looks like Times Square. So instead of that 8 to 10 times someone needs to hear or see or touch or feel something, it's more like 12 to 15 times, which as communicators with low capacity, you're like, how am I going to get there from here? So that 12 to 15 times means your integrated mix is all the more important, because you need to create a world where average Joe, average Susan sees your logo at a community event, at a sponsorship, in a digital ad, and all of a sudden they go to their mailbox. Something is in their mailbox that says, hey, we thought of you. And I think we're in a day and age right now, especially when we think about direct marketing or direct mail. People are savvy. The Times Squares of our world has evolved, consumers are getting smarter about marketing, and they're noticing, because brands are sharing how their brand is built. So consumers are getting much more savvy. And I don't know stats on this necessarily, but consumers will look at a piece of direct mail and think, they thought about me a little bit more than the 5-cent digital ad. They actually spent a little money. They must actually want to talk to me. So as our Times Square world has evolved, your integrated mix is all the more important, being ever present, and certainly having something physical in your hands that's tactical, that people can actually touch and feel. Oh my gosh, that hardly ever happens anymore. So it's such an important part of an integrated mix, and I would argue on the edge of more meaningful than something digital at this moment in time. So it takes all of those touches everywhere people look and see to be motivated to take that action.
Yeah. I think you're really onto something with that 12 to 15 touch focus and the impact of a tangible physical thing as a part of that, as a critical part of that. I think, we're seeing across our broadband customers campaigns that are 12, 15, 18 touches that are talking about pre-construction through construction, and these entire journeys are mapped out, and postcards and letters and bifold self mailers are mixed in with emails and digital touches, and so I think having the ability to leverage all these different channels and then use automation to kind of power that journey a little bit is such an important part of the mix today.
Yes, and I forgot to touch on automation. One of my clients, he said it well. He goes, I need help controlling the chaos train. It's really tough to get the 12 to 15 touches if you don't have a foundation of process. If your hair's on fire all the time, it's like the dog meme with everything on fire, and he's just like, everything's fine, this is fine. If you don't have a solid process in place, it's going to be really tough to get to that 12 to 15 touches. So when you get to a place, knowing that capacity is what it is, if you have an opportunity to automate some of those things, knowing that your process is solid and you've got a good foundation for messaging, oh my gosh, you're going to be playing chess, not checkers, when you can automate some of those processes.
Absolutely. Yeah, no question. Well, Ruby, this has been great. It's been a real pleasure to learn about, you and your journey, and about all the resources that Vantage Point can bring to the table as part of the marketing services team. And so I know, there are going to be folks in our audience in the broadband sector that are going to be interested in reaching out and learning more. So where can our audience find you? How can they connect with you and your team?
Absolutely. So going to our website and starting with a form fill is always a great way to start. If you'd like to contact me directly and get started and just let's see what you got going on. Tell me everything. My email is rhibben, RHIBBEN @vantagepnt.com. So Vantage is all spelled out, pnt.com. So I'd be happy to schedule discovery calls and let's just get the lay of the land a little bit. Those are great ways to start.
Awesome. Well, you heard it, broadband marketers. Reach out to Ruby, reach out to Vantage Point Solutions. They've got great services and great expertise they can help bring to the table. Thanks so much, Ruby, for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure to speak, and we look forward to seeing you on the conference circuit in the broadband category as we head into 2025.
Thanks so much, Dennis. Glad to be here.